Jill Dando murder cop says the single bullet used to kill her proves she wasn't an x27. T killed B. News Corp is a network of leading companies in the worlds of diversified media, news, education, and information services. The 37-year-old Crime Watch presenter was shot at point-blank range on her Fulham doorstep in April 1999. The death of Jill Dando shocked the nation 2 decades ago, and remains one of the most notorious unsolved crimes in recent history. The 37-year-old Crime Watch star, whose on-air appeals helped catch hundreds of criminals, was murdered as she returned to her Fulham home on the morning of April 26, 1999, after a night with her fiancé Alan Farthing in Chiswick. In 2001, local man Barry George was tried and convicted, only to be acquitted on appeal 7 years later after his defense lawyers argued that his IQ was too low for him to have carried such a sophisticated killing. Since then, including that it was an organized hit by a criminal gang, a contract killing ordered by a pedophile ring she was about to expose, and a revenge attack for the UN bombing of a Serbian broadcasting station. But in a new, police inspector Hamish Campbell, who ran the investigation, said he still believes that the killer was a lone stalker who will never be brought to justice. He said she received thousands of letters, and among them were some very odd letters, particularly from one individual who was clearly obsessed with her. He added, in most cases when a darker conspiracy is offered up, the truth proves more boring and mundane. Was at the height of her popularity in 1999, having presented the 6 o'clock news, Holiday, and Crime Watch. But her fame did bring her some unwanted attention, and her cousin Judith revealed she had mentioned several stalkers. Jill was always very kind to people, and you never saw a horrible side to her at all, she said. She didn't have any enemies. It's so ridiculous. She wanted to be nice to everybody, but sometimes she found it difficult to be nice to everybody when they were making her life difficult. On the morning of April 26, Jill made breakfast for her fiancé before he went to work. She then went club. At 11:30 am, neighbor Richard Hughes heard a surprised cry from Jilla, like someone greeting a friend, but no shot. He also saw a man in a dark 3/4 length coat calmly walking away and, assuming he was a pal, thought nothing of it. But 15 minutes later another neighbor, Helen Doble, discovered Jill lying on the doorstep. In a distraught call, Jill was declared dead on arrival at Charing Cross Hospital at 1:03 p.m. and her stunned colleagues were left to announce her death on BBC News, with Crime Watch presenter Nick Ross choking back tears as he appealed for information. Opening the investigation, Detective Chief Inspector Hamish Campbell said it could either be a stalker or a hitman. However, one theory that popped up was that the murder had been ordered by Serbian criminals or security officials in retaliation for a NATO attack on the radio television of Serbia HQ, which killed 16 staff members on April 23, just 3 days before Jill died. Cousin Judith Dando said, "My mother did tell me that when NATO bombed their broadcasting station WASN killed the Jill Dando of Serbia. The fact that it might have been a tit-for-tat reprisal Andorra. The way Jill was killed made me think it represented something bigger than the act." But DCI Campbell said that international intelligence agencies contacted over the claims produced no leads. Was it likely someone traveled from Serbia to kill Jill Dando? Very unlikely. However, the theory that a criminal gang brought to justice through Crime Watch was initially investigated and was raised again in the wake of Barry George's release in November 2017. In an ITV documentary in 2017, policeman-turned-journalist Mark Williams Thomas spoke to an anonymous hitman who claimed he knew the member of a criminal gang had pulled the trigger but was too frightened to name him. Barry George, who lived close to Jill's home, quickly became a suspect because of past instances of stalking. At 22, he had been convicted of attempted rape after following a young woman to her home and assaulting her on the doorstep. He was also released without charge after being found in the grounds of Kensington Palace, then home to Princess Diana, with a 12-inch hunting knife and 50 ft of rope. Police found a stash of photos of female celebrities at his home, along with a photo of a man alleged to be George holding a blank firing pistol. They also claim to have found firearms discharge FDR residue in the pocket of his jacket, which appeared to match that found on the cartridge. On July 2, 2001, George was convicted of the murder and sentenced to life in prison, but an appeal, in November 2007, quashed his conviction, and a subsequent retrial found him not guilty. Home Secretary Kenneth Clark ruled George, now 59, was not innocent enough to receive a payout. In 2013, the High Court backed decisions by successive governments to refuse him compensation for the 8 years in prison, because this is only paid when a new fact emerges to show beyond reasonable doubt that they did not commit the offense. But DCI Campbell is convinced this theory is also wide of the mark. How was revenge to be served by some villain on Crime Watch saying, "I am so upset with this, I am going to kill Jill Dando"? It makes no sense. Even if it was a contract, there has to be a fairly identifiable reason for somebody to want to pay someone else to kill another. We looked at all the cases she was involved in, and there was no evidence for it. Another theory was that Jill was about to expose a pedophile ring involving high-profile names, and that they ordered a professional hitman to silence her. But the single bullet casing recovered at the scene showed signs of tampering in 6 indentations, and DCI Campbell believes that points to an obsessed amateur. There was something odd about it. Like it had been done. This individual or gang only had 1 bullet to fire, and the 1 bullet they had to fire had to be put together. In terms of a professional capacity, firing, and then leaving the bullet behind, was in itself an odd feature. The post-mortem report, the injuries to her head, the markings on the bullet indicated a silencer couldn't have been on the gun. All this, he said, led him to the conclusion that the person responsible was more likely to be an individual than an organized planned hit. Although the trail has now gone cold, Jill's older brother Nigel said he lives in hope of her killer being caught, although he admits it is now looking less likely. "I would like to see somebody charged and convicted, but I just want to know why someone would want to kill her," he said. "I just want whoever did it to tell me, or a judge and jury, why he did it, and that would put my mind at rest. That would be closure. I remain hopeful that will happen. We are 20 years, but DCI Campbell doesn't believe the tragic TV star will ever get justice. Do I think somebody will come back to court?" he said. "Probably not." The murder of Jill Dando airs tonight on BBC at 9 p.m. Our journalists strive for accuracy, but on occasion we make mistakes. For further details,
raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.